these are the best guns to be using in Season 4 of Ranked Play, and I got you guys the best class setups for it. Let's get into it. For the first setup we're going to be going over, this is going to be the VAZNEV 9K, and this is just the typical pro player standard VAZNEV 9K class. There is a few changes you can make, but all around this is what most people are going to be running. So for the muzzle, you got the spiral flash hider, which this is going to be the best muzzle to get a lot of recoil control without really hurting the mobility. For the rear grip, we are running the true tag grip. This is just going to boost up the overall mobility, and then from here it is a personal preference thing. The only thing that you need to make sure is on your class is the spiral flash hider and the true tag grip. For the stock, I am going to be running the ultras at stock. This is just going to increase that sprint speed and aim walking speed, so then we can just run around the map a little bit quicker, and it's not going to really hurt the gun. And then lastly, for the underbarrel, we are going to be running the shark fin 90, which is just going to add a lot of aim and idle stability, basically removing all the idle sway on the weapon, giving you more predictable recoil, so it's going to be a lot easier to hit your shots. But say you're not the best at ranked play, like maybe you're like silver to gold, you might want to run the commando foregrip. This is going to give you a little bit more recoil control. It is going to hurt the ADS speed, but it's not going to hurt it that much. And then if you are a beginner, try out the Edge 47 or the F-Tac gripper. These two are the same thing. Those are going to maximize your recoil control. And then also with this build, you need to make sure you are hitting upper chest shots on the enemy, or else it's going to feel like a pea shooter. You also have to keep your engagements within 10 meters, and so if you aren't that good of a player, this gun is going to feel a little bit weak, and so then I recommend adding the cost barrel. This is going to severely increase that damage output, making it actually way stronger, but the ADS speed is going to be a little bit slower. So if you are a pretty good player, this is going to be kind of annoying, because on those higher ranks, you got to be able to move around the map very quickly, be in the enemy's face. With the cost barrel, you can't do that as easily, but in the lower ranks, it doesn't really matter. With all that said, here is a screenshot of the ranged build, and then here is the pro player build. Yo, do you want these beautiful mastery camos, or that heated madness, maybe the galvanic, or if you want your account ranked up to iridescent? Well, you should definitely check out Gwapsi. Gwapsi is a company that will play the game for you, and they'll get any camo or any skin that you want. Go check them out, link in the description. And for the rest of the class, we are going to be running a knife. I sometimes will run a pistol if I'm playing on Hydro, because you have to swim a lot on there. So I will give you guys the pistol class in a little bit, and then I'm always running the stun, Semitex if I'm playing search. Usually I run the frag, sometimes in respawn I'll run the frag, and then the perks, I run the same perks no matter what. And then with an SMG, you usually want to run a dead silence. Sometimes you want to run a trophy system if you're trying to be a hill bitch. So in that case, I really like to have two different classes. I have one with a trophy and then one with a dead silence, and I do that with the TAC as well. But before we get into the TAC, I want to go over the BAS-P, which this thing got a massive buff in the Season 3 Reloaded update. So now this thing actually competes with the other weapons. I have been popping off with this thing. It is so fun to use, and so I really recommend you guys to try out this class, which the class is pretty similar to that VAZNEV one. We are running the same muzzle for the same reason. For the underbarrel, we are running the phase 3 grip. If you want, you can run the shark fin 90, but the phase 3 grip really doesn't hurt your weapon. Like, I know it says we're losing walking speed and ADS speed, but you don't really notice it, and it gives you a lot of recoil control plus a ton of aim and auto stability. So I really recommend you guys to try out the phase 3 grip. And then for the rear grip, we are running the Bruin flash grip, which is just going to increase the overall mobility, but we are losing a little bit of our recoil control, but that's okay because we got the muzzle and the underbarrel to compensate that. And then for the last attachment, we are running the Bruin flash V4 stock. This is just going to severely boost the mobility on the weapon. Yes, it is going to hurt it a lot, but we use the other attachments to mitigate these cons, and so all around this is a very balanced build. One thing that could make this weapon a meta weapon is that if they increase the base ammo count to 40 and then make it so we can add a 30 round magazine, which gives the pros of the 20 round mag, just like the Val 46. If they do that, you'll probably see a lot of people running the BAS-P. Also, the iron sights we all know are a little bit wonky, so if you do want to run a optic, I recommend the Corona Mini Pro or the Slimline Pro. For me, I'll probably be running the Corona Mini Pro if I don't want to use the iron sights, which here is the screenshot of the class. For this next gun I wanted to go over, this is going to be a sniper class. I recommend everybody to have a sniper class. Even if you don't snipe, you would need to have one. For the respawn modes, you don't really snipe that much, but in search and destroy, it actually is very helpful to have one sniper on your team, obviously based on the situation. But overall, most people will be running the SPX 80 or the still use the MCPR. Previously, I loved the SPX, but lately I've been really liking the MCPR. Something about this weapon is just so nice. I believe it's a little bit stronger than the SPX, but it's just a little bit slower, which on rank, that doesn't really matter. And so for the class, I do recommend you guys to throw on the SPX AD optic. This is going to be the scope that every single pro player uses, I believe. And for the class on the optic, I do recommend you guys to run the SPX. Majority of the professional players do run this scope, and it's my personal favorite. And then for the stock, we are adding the Merc stock just to increase the mobility so you can quit scope if needed, which we are going to lose some recoil control, but that doesn't matter at all. For the rear grip, we are running the Cheetah grip for the same reasons as before, for that mobility, and then we are losing recoil control, but that doesn't really matter. For the bolt, I know some people don't run the bolt, but for me, I really like to have the bolt. This is going to increase that rechambering speed, so if you need to pop that second shot off a little bit quicker, this is going to allow you to do so, which this is going to hurt the rechambering accuracy. So basically, when you're hard scoping, when you go to rechamber, the scope is going to shake a lot, which is why some people don't use it. For me, I like to run that. And then lastly, for the magazine, we are running the 5-round mag, which again, that is going to increase the overall mobility. We get that movement speed, ADS speed, sprint to fire speed, and reload quickness, all around a great attachment for the MCPR. And say you do want to run the SPX, honestly, I would just run the same exact attachments. I was running the high velocity, but I found that the velocity is already so good that you don't really need that. And then for my sniper classes, I do run a pistol, which the pistol class I am going to be running is going to have the hole punch breacher. This is going to increase the melee damage, so if you ever need to hit the enemy, you are going to be able to kill them, I believe, in one hit. I could be wrong on that. For the trigger action, we are running the lightning fire, which at first you might think to add the XRKTR9 trigger because you get aiming auto stability plus fire rate increase, but with the lightning you get a bigger fire rate increase, and that's the main thing that we need for a pistol, so just run that. And then this is very important, make sure you run the Cronin Lima 6. This is going to make it so you can pull out your pistol very quickly if you're underwater, or if you're just doing something. If you have your sniper out, you can just switch to your pistol very quickly. And then for the optic, I recommend you guys to run the Cronin Mini Pro, although you don't really need to run an optic. I just found myself being a little bit more consistent when I did run an optic. For the rest of the class, same exact thing. Sometimes I'll run the trophy, but overall it doesn't really matter. And then if you guys want a screenshot of both classes, here you guys go. And then for this next setup I want to go over, this is going to be the LACHMANN sub, which is actually the fastest killing weapon, but the damage range isn't that good, so you really need to be good at getting into the enemy's face. This thing has no recoil, a very quick time to kill. All around, it is a very fun weapon if you're trying to mix things up. So for the class, very similar as all the other SMG ones, we are going to be running that Spiral Flash Hider for their recoil control. In the most recent update, not the Season 4, but the Season 3 Reloaded, I believe they nerfed the barrel, the overall mobility on the weapon. So we are going to be running this barrel to increase that mobility, making it feel like before it got nerfed. For the underbarrel, you don't really need the Phase 3 grip, but I just found myself being a little bit more consistent with this. And so if you do want the gun to be a little bit snappier, go ahead and throw on the Shark Fin 90. And then for the rear grip, you don't really need this, but I just really like to have a lot of flinch resistance. Basically, when the enemy's shooting at you, it's going to be a lot easier to stay on target. Your screen isn't going to shake as much. With that said, we are losing aim walking speed, so if that is annoying, I would just take that off. And then lastly, for the stock, we are running the mobile stock just to increase that mobility without really hurting the weapon that much. Yes, it looks like we're hurting a lot, but those cons, you don't really feel it that much. I used to run the stockless mod, but at like medium range, the gun is like unusable because there is so much recoil. With all that said, here is the LACHMANN sub screenshot. And for this next weapon I want to go over, this is going to be the TAC-56, which the TAC-56 is going to be the best AR, which I really wish they added the new AR just so we can shake up the meta a little bit. It's kind of annoying, but at the moment, the TAC-56 is going to be the best one, and I have about 3 different setups for you guys. The one that you're looking at right now is one of my favorites. I don't know if I really like the VLK Colossus Flash Hider yet. I just noticed more and more people, and I believe in the CDL, people are starting to run the Flash Hider, so I do recommend you guys to try this one out. Which another very good muzzle is going to be the RF Crown or the FJX Fulcrum Pro. I know Octane, he plays for the LA Thieves. He runs the Kamado Heavy sometimes. This is helpful because it removes the horizontal recoil, which is very noticeable at long range, and so you could try that one out. For the barrel, we are running the Tundra Pro barrel. This is going to make the weapon kill in less shots at range, although if you're on a smaller map like Mercado, you actually don't need a barrel. Octane, he plays for the LA Thieves, that the only reason the pros run a barrel is to make the weapon worse. The gun is GA'd, so it's banned in the competitive league if you are not running a barrel, so that shows that the gun is very good without a barrel. Although at long range, the TAC-56 is going to be a little bit better with that barrel. And then for the stock, we are going to be running the Cardinal stock. Some people do run the X-Line Pro, but I recommend the Cardinal because this one, yes, it is going to help the mobility a lot, but it's going to hurt the recoil control. And so that's why I like the Cardinal. This one just makes it so you can run around the map a little bit quicker, and then there really isn't any cons. And then we are going to be running the Clean Shot grip, which this is going to just bump up the mobility. Mainly, we want this for that sprint to fiery speed so we can run and gun a little bit easier. And so this is a very long range setup. If you want a setup with a little bit more mobility, then I would take off the muzzle and I would go over and throw on the high velocity rounds, which this is going to make it feel like you're playing on a better ping. And so actually a lot of people don't even run the Clean Shot and they'll throw on a muzzle onto their build. And so this is another very popular one. I believe Scump actually runs this one, and so you know it's pretty good. And then there's just one more setup I want to show you. I'll give you guys screenshots at the end. Throw on the Clean Shot and then have the high velocity with no barrel. And so this is a very mobile setup, and if you are using this and you're like, damn, I just cannot hit my shots, then obviously, you know, you want to go on and throw on one of those muzzles I showed you earlier. So with all that said, here's a recoil high mobility build. This is a very high mobility build, and this is a very ranged build. Remember, you don't have to run that muzzle. You can run the RF Crown or the FJX Full Crown Pro. And then I actually saw one setup from lunchtime. He wasn't running the shark fin, and then he went over to the rear grip and threw on the Clean Shot grip, and he is like one of the best rank play content creators, so you know, like, his class is good. And now for the next setup. Oh, actually, before I show you guys that, so if you look at my classes, I usually use the VAZNEV and the TAC-56. So there's two VAZNEV classes. You got the Dead Silence and the Trophy, and then the same thing for the TAC-56, which on this one I am going to be running a pistol. Usually I'll only run this on Hydro because underwater, if you see another enemy, you can't really knife them unless you get very close. And so with this one, you actually can pull out the pistol and then you can shoot them underwater. So I do use this with the VAZNEV as well when I'm on Hydro. And so the class I recommend is going to be very similar to that sniper one, but we are not going to be running a barrel because this barrel is going to hurt the bullet velocity, which underwater your bullets fire so slow, and so you really don't want to hurt the bullet velocity even more. And so basically just the same thing. I don't think you guys need a screenshot for that. And for this next setup I want to go over, this is going to be the Val-46. This is actually a meta weapon in ranked play. This thing has so much mobility and a very quick time to kill. This is probably my favorite gun in the game. It is so light and just so fun to use. And so for this setup, very similar to the other ones, you don't need to run the commando. I just like the commando on here. If you aren't that good at the game, you might want to run the Edge 47. For me, I'll be running the commando, and sometimes I will go ahead and throw on the Shark Fin 90 if I want the gun to be a little bit snappier. And then for the muzzle, again, we are running the Spiral Flash Hider for the recoil control. Here is the magazine I was talking about when I was going over the BAS-P. This magazine is going to really increase that mobility, which is why this gun is so good in rank play. Plus, just the base stats are pretty good on the weapon. And then for the rear grip, we are running the Skalager Soldier grip just to increase that mobility. For this last attachment, we are running the Demo RTX stock, which this is gonna bump up that mobility. Yes, we are losing recoil control, but that's why we got this muzzle and this commando foregrip. There is one more setup I want to show you guys. This is going to be more of a beginner Val-46 setup, very similar to this one, but you want to add the Bruin Sync Shot grip. You don't really see people running that, but that's going to remove all the idle sway on the weapon. It's actually so nice on the gun. And then you want to go over to the barrel and throw in the Tango barrel, which this is going to really increase that damage range, making it so you don't really need to be as close to the enemies, which is why it is a beginner setup. Got the 30 round mag on there, got the same grip. And then for the stock, you just want to throw on the Assault 60 stock for a little bit more recoil control. And I see most people use this build when they're in like bronze to gold. Then you want to use the other one once you get a little bit higher up in the ranks. So with all that said, here is the range setup. And then if you want to get a screenshot of my personal favorite setup, here you guys go. And for this next weapon I want to go over, also if you are a little bit confused which gun is better than the other gun, at the very end of the video I'll like rank all these weapons. But before that, I do really recommend you guys to try out the LACHMANN 556. This thing just got a buff in the Season 3 Reloaded update, making it a meta weapon, and this thing is so fun to use. I don't know why I don't see more people using it. I do have a few different setups. I'll just show you guys screenshots of both of them. But on this one, for the barrel, we are going to be adding the 10.6 inch barrel. This is going to just make the weapon a little bit more stable. Yes, it is hurting the movement speed and the ADS-P, but it's not going to hurt it that much. And then for the underbarrel, we are running the Commando foregrip just to add a little bit more recoil control, which you don't really need this. So if you want, you can add the Shark Fin 90, or you can take off the underbarrel and add the high velocity rounds. And that's only if you find this weapon is just already very easy to use and it's a little bit too slow slow for your liking. And then for the muzzle, we are going to be running the RF crown. I did test out all the muzzles and I found that you got the best recoil pattern with the RF crown. And then for the stock, to bring up the mobility that we are losing with these 3 attachments, you want to add the mobile stock. And then lastly, you want to go over to the rear grip and add the LMK, which is just going to increase that mobility even more. And so here's the screenshot of my new favorite LACHMANN build. The other one that I really like, maybe I'll use this on like the very big maps, is very similar, but we're running the ported just to give a lot of vertical recoil control since there's not that much horizontal recoil on the weapon. And then for the barrel, we're running the LACHMANN Nova, no underbarrel. We are going to be running the high velocity, and then we got the LMK grip and the mobile stock. And now for the final setup I wanted to show you guys, this is going to be the PDSW, the P90. This thing isn't that good, but it's also very good. I've gotten a lot of games where I completely popped off with this thing. This thing is very underrated. So the class, again, very similar. There's kind of like a standard meta setup for like every single build, which they all kind of have these same attachments. So you want to run the spiral flash hider for the recoil control. And then because the base mobility on the weapon isn't that good, we are not going to be running a barrel. You don't need a rail. You can't use an underbarrel. And then you don't really need an optic. If you want to run an optic, run the Chrono Mini Pro. And then for these attachments, we are going to be running the extended stock just to fine tune the weapon, bringing up the mobility a little bit without really hurting it. Previously, I tried out the CQB stock, but this one just hurts the recoil control, and I just found myself always missing shots, so I don't really like that one. But if you are very good at the game, you might want to use this stock. And then for the comb, we are running the TV Tac comb just to increase that mobility. And then lastly, for the same reasons, we are running the Bruin Q900 grip. So with all that said, here is the screenshot of the P90. So the way that I would rank all of these weapons, if you're trying to do the absolute best, run the VAZNEV 9K. And then if you want to do the best with an AR, run the TAC 56. The next best AR is probably the LACHMANN 556. If you want to use a different SMG, I would use the VAL 46. The next one down will be the LACHMANN sub, and then the BAS-P, and then the PD90. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button, and deuces.